From the sunny mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, especially if you're listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Now, if you want to take a listen to our archives, we have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show and my personal handle on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Does it seem like we are edging closer to any sort of disclosure, or is it just another giant smokescreen we're seeing by the military and government officials looking to play on the emotions of people? Tim McMillan, a retired lieutenant and intelligence analyst from Savannah, Georgia, to testify his love for solving mysteries, Tim now works as an investigative writer examining any question worth answering. Over the past year, Tim has become a very loud and proud voice for breaking stories in the UFO world, writing for Vice and Popular Mechanics. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Mr. Tim McMillan, it's been a while since we had you on, but it's always a pleasure to have you here, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. No, it's great to be here, man. Thanks for bringing me on.
How do you get from Savannah, Georgia, all the way to Germany, man?
Oh man, yeah, it's like most things. The truth is kind of pedestrian, because I've heard some great conspiracies out there, Dave. I think I've been accused of being a CIA agent, because why else would somebody just up and move to Germany? But the truth of it is my wife works for the Department of Defense. Actually, she's a school teacher, so even that job is not as exciting as it may sound. And I took early retirement from law enforcement, so I was freelancing, writing, which allowed me to work from home. And the opportunity arose that we could move over here to Germany. We've got 3 small kids, and so we thought it'd be a great opportunity for them, along with ourselves, having never been to Europe, actually. So coming up on a year, yeah, we moved over here to Germany, and thus far have enjoyed it.
What kind of a change of life have you had since you moved there?
Well, because most of my work is based back in the States, I'll say the first thing is adjusting to all sorts of weird hours, because like right now it's early morning for me, and I think for those on the West Coast, it's just nighttime. The sun hasn't even set in some areas, and so a lot of my work carries me into the late night or wakes me up in the morning. That would be one big adjustment. Other than that, I will say, especially examining, what I've been examining for the past year, and kind of approaching an investigative approach to the UFO topic. One thing that I have thoroughly enjoyed getting out of the States is it has broadened my perspective of examining how does the rest of the world view the UFO phenomena or paranormal topics in general. I'll be honest, I got to enjoy visiting, and not far from me is the near Wittlich is the site where the last werewolf was supposedly slain, and the shrine outside that's supposed to keep him from coming back. And so it's interesting for me to get out and see differences, a little broader worldview in general, but also in the topics that I'm covering. And so now it hopefully will allow me to bring some UFO news and stories that aren't always just U.S. based and U.S. government based, since they seem to kind of take the lead.
I got to ask you, Tim, you as a freelance writer, you could have written about anything. Why UFOs?
And I've been very candid and told people that interest in this subject for me began 9 years ago, roughly. When I had my own UFO sighting. I have no problem saying that. I don't know what I saw. It certainly wasn't as dramatic or as compelling as I think some people's sightings are, but it was real. I had, at the time, I was a sergeant in the police department. I had another sergeant with me. We were actually off duty, but she saw it, I saw it, and then later we find out somebody, I still don't know who, but a third independent person about 30 miles west of us saw it as well. So it was real. There's no doubt in my mind it was real. What it was, I don't know. And so that my interest, extends back to that. However, I took early retirement from law enforcement. I was working as a investigative analyst for a private firm for about a year, and I started examining the landscape. I think that the UFO topic became mainstream news, obviously, the last couple of years, especially, obviously, with the New York Times kind of expose in December 2017. It became even more compelling and interesting in a mainstream arena, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people. And so in examining that, I'll be honest with you, Dave, I kind of got frustrated that I didn't feel like I was seeing some really compelling investigative news going out to the general public. I mean, there's some phenomenal UFO researchers. I mean, really, really phenomenal. I'll tell you that's one of the things that's impressed me is that there are some people that I have met who research the topic that, frankly, they're every bit as good as investigators as anyone I've ever worked with. Investigation is investigation, whether it's homicide or UFOs. And so there's some great investigators kind of behind the scenes. However, I didn't feel like really good investigative news was being brought to the general public. And so I decided to jump off and do it, apply my past experience and skill set and see what I could do. Throw my hat in.
You have done very well, Tim. And, you and I have had some very deep, in-depth discussions, especially about the quality of journalism and lack thereof in this field, especially with the number of people who like to self-title themselves in this field as journalists. But, I really believe that you have turned a major corner over the last 6-7 months, man, and really, really dug in and are bringing high-quality news from this field into the realm of the public. Now, there's a lot of people doing that right now, but very few have actually stepped up to the plate. And, I think that needs to be commended right off the bat, because without that filter of news and knowledge that you are gaining and other people are gaining as well in this field, I mean, we'd still be at square one with a lot of these topics, man. And that we'd still be treading water.
Well, well, thank you, first of all, for all of that, all the nice things you said, Dave. And I will say that, and excuse me, that I've said plenty of times, I'm not a classically trained journalist, and nor do I typically even call myself journalist, other than the colloquial is easy for people to recognize. But I'm an investigator. And so everything that I bring out, I typically don't do a lot of short stories. I'm more of a feature writer, because when I'm looking at any of these topics, I'm approaching it the exact same way I would have as if it was a case that I was preparing and presenting to a district attorney that's going to be taken into the court of law. And so before a judge and jury, and in this case, the judge and jury are the public. And so I try to be very, very thorough in that regard, apply the same standards and rules of evidence that you would exactly, in a criminal case, in a courtroom setting. And that's the information that I try to bring forward, because I genuinely have found that there is compelling evidence. And when you take that kind of care and effort to vet everything, vet sources, bring material and eyewitness testimony, I think that's, in my opinion, that's how you reach the general public and going, hey, wow, wait a minute. You build a case, and I think it's there.
How do you stay out of the woo?
Well, what probably the easiest way, because it wouldn't be fair to say that I do stay out of the woo personally. I think that I'm very, very cautious about what I say publicly, especially what I print or write, because, as you probably realize, it's very easy for personal opinion, personal beliefs to become fact and kind of take on mythos and just grow to a life of their own, especially in my regard. If I've done stuff in the past, whether it's for Popular Mechanics or Vice or the War Zone, and people have seen my name and they read these articles, and then if I suddenly give my opinion, which may be woo, people take that with a lot more authority than oftentimes I think they should, and that's just for anybody that's kind of in this field, because we all have opinions. And so I will say my general opinions about a lot of things would probably be categorically more woo than people realize. It's just I'm very cautious to make sure that the information I put out is as objective as possible and take myself out of it, because to a large degree, a lot of the woo, and I don't mean this just speaking about it as if the woo aspect is not real, but a lot of it, I think, in general, is very personally related. And so to some degree, I think some of the woo experiences is hard to convey to other people because, for whatever reason, if you've experienced something like that, it's personal to you. And that's hard to convey anything that's personal to you. So yeah, I probably espouse more woo in my personal opinion than people realize.
I do have to ask you, I mean, woo aside, there's been a plethora of news recently regarding, MUFON and what happened earlier this week. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about. We went very in depth a couple of days ago, having a 6-person panel on this show discussing MUFON, and I think it was probably, one of the most impactful, emotional shows that I have ever done on this broadcast. And it's one of those things that, I've always been so critical of them. And you and I have talked about this, and I've talked to members of the board about this on MUFON. And it's not that I wanted to be that critical. It's just that I felt I needed to be. All right. And I know you wrote about it, and MJ Benias wrote about it. And, this is a topic that affects everyone. When you found out about Jan Harzan and the charges that were laid against him as a former police officer, along with being one of the top writers in UFO news right now, what was going through your head?
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I mean, I think just like anybody else, I was shocked. Probably not as much as a lot of other people, but that's simply because they have been in the public sphere of this field a lot longer than I have, and involved with MUFON and these types of things, and maybe had more personal relationship or knowledge of Jan. And so this was shocking for them. I was shocked in general. But at the same time, I realize, and this comes from having worked in law enforcement, that regrettably, there are people that espouse criminal behaviors, things that are, I personally, especially as a father, find disturbing and appalling. And the charges against him for soliciting a minor. So all of those same things that I thought when I first heard the news. In general, with MUFON, I haven't heard everything that you've said, and I noticed you said you had been critical of them, and I would say that I share those views not because I'm critical of the institution. I think there needs to be a civilian reporting system for UFO sightings. I think that what MUFON's goal and purpose is good. I have been critical of them because I think the leadership and direction in how they go about that approach hasn't been what I consider to be great. And so one side I was shocked with the news. The other side, I will say that I certainly hope that somehow out of this, I think MUFON can move forward. I don't want to see MUFON collapse. I know that's been going around and everything. At least not unless somebody else or some other entity stepped up to the plate. Because the one thing I will say about MUFON is it does provide an avenue for people like myself. 9 years ago, after I saw a UFO sighting, I was not familiar with the field. Who do you call and report that to? Who do you turn to try to help you get answers when this is a topic or an idea you've never really discussed? And for me, it was MUFON. I did did like everybody else, Google searched, found MUFON, and reported my own sighting. And that kind of would be a catalyst that launched me into this field. And so I think that what they do is very, very important. I'd like to see a little more done with the data and a little more beyond that. And hopefully, this forced change in leadership direction, maybe we'll see a different change with MUFON. And, because as it sits right. Yeah. I hope so.
I don't think they have a choice. And one of the things that I brought up to a couple of people very close to MUFON, and one of them being a board member, I said, look, what you need to do, and I said, take my opinion for what it's worth, okay? And I said, you can do this or you can't. I said, but if I was in your shoes, the first thing I would be doing is having an independent investigator come in here and check out the rest of the board of board of directors, check out other MUFON members within that Southern California, Nevada, Arizona type area that would be in the vicinity of Mr. Harzan and his travel schedule. And I would put them all through a test and let's weed it out. If you guys are as innocent as you claim you are, and I think you are, then you should have no problem with doing that. And that's the first way of starting to not put a Band-Aid on things, but to take credibility that you guys are serious about cleaning up everything that is wrong or that people perceive as wrong. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I think that one thing that MUFON has not done well is exactly that, is deal with controversy and deal with things that are just bad. I know that they've had several instances of just completely poorly handling incidences where they've had either influential MUFON members or state directors who've made overtly racist comments, these types of things. And instead of setting this tone of what you stand for and where, there should always be a line between, we can disagree about UFOs, we can disagree about a lot of things, but when it comes to stuff like racism and bigotry and sex crimes, which is what Mr. Harzan was arrested for, we should have a firm line in the sand and say, no. Now this right here, we're not going to disagree here on this. Like this is something that is wrong under any circumstance. Right. And I think they've done a bad job with that. And you're right in terms of setting a different tone and saying we're going to be a professional organization that will attract other professional people who I'll tell you, Dave, I talked to a lot of people that would surprise most everybody, that behind the scenes in terms of who they are, where they come from professionally, the credentials that they carry, because they're, PhD professors at Ivy League universities, or they're CEOs of major companies, or they're people whose names might be known but completely not associated with UFOs, yet they've had their own experiences, or they're extremely interested in the topic, but they are interested in silence. The invisible college, quote unquote, is really kind of there's a lot of invisible colleges out there, more than people realize, some satellite campuses. And these are people who are every bit as interested and passionate, I think, as the public, quote unquote, UFO community. Yet them coming out and saying that publicly is just a fatal albatross to their professional careers. And I think that relates to the fact that there's not a professional credentialed space for them to do that. And so,
I was proud of. Yeah, I was proud to find out yesterday that they actually do make all members take criminal record checks. That has been a part of their program for a while, which I think is fantastic. And, sure. As we only got a couple minutes to go here, and I don't want to go all night on MUFON because I think we've all beaten that stick for a while here. But do you think MUFON can survive this? And if so, how do they?
Well, sure. I think they can survive it simply because they are, one of the largest organizations, and they have an existing name. They have an existing brand. So if you look at it from that perspective, sure. I think that in order to survive it is, just same things you've mentioned. Investigating it to make sure that you have the most professional people possible that are in your space, that are making decisions. And I think taking what is inherently a negative just across the board, the sudden discovery that your director has at least been accused of a pretty grotesque crime, taking that and saying that this is going to be an opportunity that we didn't see this coming, but we're going to really evaluate both our organizational structure, who's in it, and how we're handling business, and we're going to come out of this better. We're going to now make sure that we make a concerted effort to fix a lot of different things. And you mentioned, like you said, it's great to hear that they do criminal background checks. I don't know off the top of my head, maybe you do, whether the same thing is extended to field investigators and stuff. I personally think that that's important because you're asking people to report something and then let a field investigator into their home or into their lives. I think it's vitally important that you make sure you're not putting anybody in harm's way unintentionally. And so I think that making sure that you've got credentialed and professional people across the board is very important. So I think they can survive. I think it's going to take effort on the part of either the board or the people that are there. And I think if that's not the case, I think that you will see those people who want to see what I just described will come together in some way, shape, or form. And I don't think that the civilian UFO reporting network will die. It may just become something else, much like we've seen throughout the history of ufology. This has happened before. So, but I'm not rooting for them to collapse. I know some people are. It's never personal in that regard, because I do believe there's some really great people who are involved in the organization or would like to be more involved in the organization.
Well, you know what? We have a plethora of topics to cover tonight, my friend. And, I want to say thank you for mentioning what your feelings are on MUFON. I think in the end, as angry as a lot of people are about this, I think in the end, there's a lot more people out there who care, Tim. There really is, yourself included. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I have seen, online or in Twitter and, social media is this idea that Jan Harzan's arrest is going to look bad for the UFO community or is going to blemish the topic. And I'll be the first to say it shouldn't. And that is if people view it professionally and take it, don't act like it's going to blemish the product. I don't think Jan Harzan. He's an individual, okay? He's not.
I'm gonna cut you off right there because we do have to go to break. That's my fault. We'll be back right here on Spaced Out Radio. Lieutenant Tim McMillan joins us. UFOs all night long here on the Mighty SOR.
Hey, space travelers. This is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month, and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway right now here on the Mighty SOR. I am Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you, and no place I would rather be than on the radio talking UFOs tonight. Hey, we want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives. Go to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You know what? Follow us on our Instagram page at Spaced Out Radio Show. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and much more. Tim McMillan, we're not going to waste any time here. We're just going to get right into the gamut here. What the hell is going on with Marco Rubio now claiming that there are UFOs flying over military installations, and he's scared?
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, no, that's big news in the UFO world. I would say that it's been overshadowed by other perspective news, which we may end up just talking about. I'm sure you'll want to before this is said and done. But to me, that is bigger news, is what Marco Rubio said. And for those who aren't aware, that that it relates to a provision that was included in the Senate Intelligence Committee Act. So it's been presented now. It's in front of the House and Senate, and they will vote on it. And if they vote and approve, it's something that the president will sign in that relates to, very directly. This is a bill provision that talks about UAP, or unidentified aerial phenomena, and the task force that is currently going about investigating these occurrences. And it also calls for the production of an unclassified report on essentially what's going on with unidentified aerial phenomena, and how much is being done to investigate it, and what resources are additionally needed. And so on my end, and this kind of goes into the battle space that I really operate in, so the government side and the political side of things, it's fascinating. It's really compelling. Because it is very much, I think for people who have followed the UFO topic for many years, they respect and understand that this is a real phenomenon. This is really going on. It's interesting to me to see that now being said and presented in the exact same way you would in a government space by legislators. I think the fact that you have Marco Rubio talking about it is very compelling to me, because he is someone who is not known for discussing UFOs, and I believe even other than recently, his only public comments on the topic were kind of tongue in cheek or poking fun of it. And so now that he's treating it seriously, I think if we put that in context, since it has been admitted that senators have been briefed on it, the fact that he went from ridiculing the topic to suddenly he's saying, no, this is serious, we need to know what's going on, and putting his name behind it and putting a bill before the House and Senate, that is compelling, and to say that whatever he's been briefed upon has completely changed his opinion on it. And the fact for a politician to do that, and especially Marco Rubio, it was the last presidential election cycle, he was a Republican candidate for president. Obviously didn't, or for nomination for president, obviously didn't make it. But still, the fact that this is not an obscure senator. Mr. Rubio is fairly young, and so the idea that he could potentially try to run for president again someday, I think, is not crazy. And for him to be willing to put his name behind the UFO topic, that's really, it's not out loud saying it, but that's really compelling, because that means a lot goes into what these politicians say. And they try, in most instances, to avoid saying anything that's going to come back and bite them or embarrass them as they try to progress through their political careers. And so his willingness to do that, and I think the fact that he is a pretty influential and well-known politician, it's really, really, really interesting for me. I'm just excited to see where that goes, frankly.
So am I. But you know what scares me about this, Tim, is he's coming at it the same way other groups have come at this, and the discussion has all been about threat. As far as we know, there has never been a military incident where one of these craft has shot down a helicopter, a military plane, a military drone, a military satellite. We have not had that happen. And when we add to it that yes, they've been seen observing volcanoes. These UFOs have been seen observing people or concerts or football games, baseball games. It's not just military, and yet we have this threat phenomena. What is your take on the threat phenomena? And is it really a threat, or is this about trying to get taxpayers' money pushed in there because that's the best way to do it when we say we could be under attack?
Right. No, Dave, that's great. I'm glad you asked that, because I know that a lot of people share the same views that you have, and everything that you said, I think, is accurate. You're right. I think there are instances that have been reported where you have injuries or even some, I think, where death, but those that are connected to UFOs. But in those instances, these, to my knowledge, these aren't overt acts by whatever these objects are. These are happenstances, kind of, like if you get too close to a hot burner and put your hand on it, you're going to get burned. So, but it's not the stove's fault. So in that regard, you're right. I don't think that when you say threat, you're saying that as if that this is an overt enemy threat that is attacking us. However, coming kind of from the background that I come from, and working in the domestic threat world and law enforcement, and just a big military family coming from that sphere, I understand why it's being said, and I would say I agree with what they're saying. That what it is that this is not a threat, and I think that the latter word that's being left out oftentimes when it's described by whether it's Senator Rubio or just in general when you hear the threat term, dun dun dun, is threat potential, and so the potential is what's not being transmitted, and when we say threat potential, that just means does it have the potential to be threatening, and I think if you look at everything with the UFO topic, absolutely it has threat potential, simply because in every reported instance, there is no indications whatsoever that anybody in government or the defense apparatus of any government in the world has any capability that could stop these things if they wanted to become threatening. Now, does that mean that everything that has been observed and seen under any span of time is going to turn into a threat at any point? No, I don't think that means that. It just means that something out there has the potential technologically that we have no defense against should it be threatening. And so it's not so much what you're seeing now or what you have seen in the past, but all you need is one to have the capability. And so maybe, I'll be the first to say I don't know what UFOs represent, whether it's extraterrestrial, whether it's interdimensional, whether it's, whatever, a secret cabal. I don't know. But if one of any of these options possesses that potential that you don't have any defense against, that's not to say that another doesn't show up. All you need is one that has that capability. And so if the Klingons suddenly stumble upon Earth or whatever, and their intent is to be aggressive, their intent is a true threat, we're in a little bit of trouble. And so I totally understand why that is being said. I don't think it is as much of a ploy to get attention or get tax dollars and this much involved. However, that is a component of it that I think does work. I think we see this with anything. You notice how people suddenly get interested in something the moment it becomes threatening or scary. It's oftentimes how we motivate things. in terms of politics, that's exactly how they motivate things. They make it scary.
Yes. But one of the things that Rubio stated was he was hoping it was aliens, and I'm paraphrasing here. He was hoping it was aliens more so than any other military faction or country on this planet, because if it's from this planet, they've got to worry about America's safety. And if it's not, well, that would be easier in his opinion. But would it? Because let's face it, I found that comment very intriguing, okay, because not to spread the woo a little bit, but they have done a good job over the last little while, the last couple years, thank you to the TTSA, that we're not supposed to have aliens and UAPs in the same sentence. And yet Rubio tied it together.
Yeah, well, and I heard that, and it was interesting. From my perspective, I don't read too much into that. Reason being is that he's a politician. I was impressed at how well he handled all of those questions, frankly, and that he didn't typically politically speak them, but at the same time, I think when you hear something like that, when he says he'd rather it be alien than somebody else in the world, I think what he's now playing to is all the other things that come before the Senate Select Intelligence Committee, which is the committee he's on, which involve adversarial nations to the United States and the threats that they do tangibly present, whether it's cyber intrusions or, you have North Korea threatening to nuke the U.S., these types of things. And so for me, I kind of perceive that as if it was a actual terrestrial foreign power, and they possess this capability, that frankly, that would shift the geopolitics of the whole world. And I'll say that is another reason that it seems to me that the people who know, or the policymakers and decision makers, are fairly certain that what's being seen is not a foreign government or powers technology, simply because if that was true, we would see a much different geopolitical climate. You wouldn't, if we believed these were Chinese, we probably wouldn't be, denouncing China's claim to the South China Sea. We wouldn't be saber rattling with Russia or Iran if we believed it was their technology, because in most regards, that's what the defense world is about. It's about having the bigger, badder toys in hopes of not using them, but giving you the kind of muscle to have power and push your political agendas across the globe, frankly. And so because we don't see that, that is a compelling reason for me that there's zero belief that this is a foreign powers technology. You'd be a little more tempered if you thought that the Chinese or Russia could just zoom in your airspace at will, shut down your nuclear weapons, and do whatever they wanted. You'd be a little more willing to be kind, a little more diplomacy and tempered with your words, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to flip the sides here. Why the purpose, then, have we heard these government officials, whether it's Mark Warner or now Marco Rubio over the last 2 weeks, talking about UFOs? Is it a political stance? Is it popularity? Or is there a genuine concern?
I'll give you my honest opinion, because this is the space where I report on the most, and really where I examine. I don't look at individual sightings, but this area of how government's involvement with this topic is my kind of forte. I think it's the latter. I think that whether people realize it or not, I don't think it's a political ploy. I don't think it's an effort for popularity. I think that if you look at the measures outside of maybe the UFO community, the topic in and of itself has not reached widespread general popularity to the point where it would be a political agenda. And so you're going to support it whether you believe it or not, because it's politically advantageous for you. I don't see that. I genuinely think it's the latter. I think I know from my own reporting that I know that these senators in both the Armed Services and Intelligence Committee have received classified closed-door briefings from government officials about what's going on. They, to the best of my knowledge, because those are classified briefings, I don't know exactly what's going on there, but to the best of my knowledge, it involves sharing of information and data that has been collected. And I genuinely think that what has come out of those briefings has caused these politicians to accept the fact that, oh, wow, this is something real. This is real, something that we need to talk about, because if it's real and it's going on, just kind of putting our head in the sand is not going to do anything. And so from everything I've seen, I truly believe the latter, is that this is something that is really honestly being considered and taken seriously by both politicians now and individuals inside the Department of Defense and U.S. government.
Can the military continue to cover it up? Or are we getting to that point where it's time that they're going to start letting loose? Because here's my thinking of this. We all know that when the first 3 videos came out from TTSA, that both Luis Elizondo and Chris Mellon marked them down as drones and not as unidentified aerial phenomena. That's how they were able to get the videos out. And I know you know that, and many others have told me that as well. Okay, I look at it this way. I don't think any more videos are coming out because they want to have control of this subject. So does it become now a power play because the government is talking about it, the elected officials are talking about it, or does the military still own this project?
Well, this is a great, interesting aspect of all of this that I think has not really been discussed in the UFO world, is how you actually really legitimately get more compelling information about this from the government side. And this is in the power play and struggle between branches of government. And one of the things that I'll say with this bill provision, that what it appears to me, some of the things are not characteristic with what you would typically see. For example, the unclassified report, the production of this report to the committee has been requested to be provided within 6 months of the bill's signing. That's 6 months in the bureaucratic world of government is like an hour. I mean, it's just way too quick to produce anything like that. For me, this seems to be more of laying the foundation for a funding mechanism to possibly provide more funding to actually examining what this is and expanding and making the topic a more legitimate, credible effort within government, both public-facing and privately. Now, when you have money on the table, suddenly branches of government that have been very quiet, namely the U.S. Air Force, which, this is America's premier air defense branch, they have completely just, turned their head and been blind, dumb, and deaf to the topic for the last 3 years. It's been the Navy leading the charge. However, when you've got money on the table now, and so this is the difference between is money getting pulled from the Air Force's budget and going to the Navy, or is it getting pulled from somewhere else and going to Space Force? Now, all of a sudden, there's reason for officials to jockey for that money and make it known that, yes, their particular branch, either A, is encountering the same thing, B, has the capabilities to investigate it further. And so for that end, it's very interesting for the power play. And I think you will see some of that in the coming year. And when it comes to more compelling videos or other videos being released, I'll be honest with you, Dave. I'm kind of with you. I don't necessarily think that you're going to see any more videos coming out, at least not anytime soon. Unless, like we just described, you get some more power plays there. I will say that I don't think that the unclassified report will be very compelling to the general public of the UFO community. I don't think it's going to say a lot publicly. And part of that reason is because at the heart of all of this, what we're talking about when we're talking about objects that are able to penetrate your airspace at will, fly over your nuclear installations, fly over your battle carrier groups, impervious to anything that you can do, you're talking about vulnerabilities and vulnerabilities to your defense capabilities. And like it or not, this is the defense sphere. And so they have a set of goals, they have a mission in place, and that is defense. And the idea of openly discussing aspects that you are vulnerable to, it is simply not done in the defense world. And I think that, frankly, could be a very compelling reason for why the topic has not been discussed, or you have, quote unquote, a UFO cover-up by government, is because at its core, you are talking about vulnerabilities to national defense of multiple governments across the world. And in the defense world, that's not what you want to talk about for a host of reasons.
Okay, so we have about just under 2 minutes here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Is it a smokescreen? Is it to fire up a bunch of people and point their fingers and say, look what we're making these idiots do?
No. I mean, my opinion, no. I will say in the balance of probabilities, that would be very, very low. The idea that it is some sort of disinformation campaign to smokescreen secret classified technologies or anything else in that regard, I would, first and foremost, under U.S. law, it's illegal. So it would be the equivalent of live streaming as you broke into the Watergate complex and then sold weapons to the Iran-Contra rebels. And so to me, in that regard, frankly, it's far less. That's one of the lowest possibilities because of that officials be so willing to brazenly and publicly break federal law, and it would be a just political suicide. That would be something that you would never want to be attached to. People would probably end up going to prison, and especially in the United States, where you have changes in executive presidential administrations every 4 to 8 years. If you look at the current President Trump's administration, the idea that if the Obama administration had signed off on some sort of plan to overtly deceive the American public and break criminal law, the current presidential administration would love to bring that out in the open. In fact, frankly, if that was true, and in this case it would have to be, because these plans would have to have been approved by the last presidential administration, if that was true, you're talking about almost assuredly securing your reelection, because you could prove that the last administration had just brazenly broke the law and violated a host of just different things, ethically and morally. And so for me, that is probably the least likely.
Tim, when we come back, I want to delve into the Wilson files. Let's talk about why it's never aliens and a lot more. Your questions as well, if you're in the chat rooms or on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Put the hashtag in front. Lieutenant Tim McMillan from Vice and Popular Mechanics joins us talking to UFOs right after this.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate that. I want to remind all of you that we are on 6 different terrestrial radio stations across North America, digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. All of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. I gotta find it here. Where is it? Oh, where'd you put it, Jeffrey? Basilicide. Basilicide is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio for the show and on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Lieutenant Tim McMillan from Vice and Popular Mechanics is here talking UFOs all night long. We got a plethora of topics to talk about with him tonight because now we're going to get into the Wilson files. And recently, Tim, over the last couple of weeks, Admiral Wilson has been public a couple of times, not often, a couple of times, absolutely denying the fact that he met with a scientist named Eric Davis in Las Vegas and talked about UFOs. And, you know, it's ridiculous that this conversation is happening because he has no choice, Tim. And I see the people who are trying to defend him, but he has no choice with his NDAs, with his security clearances, with his previous job that he held, and it's an accountable job. It's a job of prestige working with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He has no choice but to say, I have no idea who this guy is.
Well, yeah, I mean, given that if the context of everything that's in those documents is true, yeah, the idea that not only he, came across information that would be considered classified or top secret, obviously, but if everything is accurate in those documents, he did so without authority. And so you can't go seeking out classified information that you're not privy to just because you hold a high clearance, and in his regard, some very high clearances. It doesn't mean that you're still read into everything. And there's very few people that have that access. And so all of that would be considered a significant counterintelligence threat. Absolutely. I'll say that his latest comments to Billy Cox, who did a great job finally kind of getting him locked down into some public statements. I was surprised at how such a throaty denial that he gave. I'll say that much. I would not have expected him to go, oh, yeah, no, that's totally true. I met with a person who was a stranger to me at the time and disclosed to them everything that I did that would get me in trouble, and now disclosing it to you, which will get me in more trouble. I would not expect him to do that. I was surprised at the level of depth and detail, frankly, that he went to denying that event. And so that was intriguing to me, and I think it still is. have my thoughts and opinions on the whole memos and everything. And I'm not totally convinced about everything going on there. I'll be honest with you, Dave.
Well, okay, let's look at it from the other side, because we're all blaming, whether or not he is covering things up. I think he is. And that's just a gut feeling, no proof. Okay, but there's a lot of people out there, too, who believe that Eric Davis is one sketchy dude, and really, Tim, shouldn't be trusted with his words. I mean, let's look at the other side here for a second. Can we trust Eric Davis, who has worked alongside some very powerful people in the scientific community, in the private sector? He has worked with many people in the government as well. I mean, how do we not trust him if he got to that position by being a pretty smart guy?
Yeah, no, that's great. You bring up a very relevant point, and I, in contrary to everything I said at the first hour about how I'm very cautious about stating my own opinion or hypothesis or thoughts on this, I'm going to give a Spaced Out Radio exclusive here, and I'll discuss some things that I think are lingering still in my mind with all of this. First and foremost, I have absolutely zero evidence or current belief that Dr. Eric Davis is lying, or that he's lying about any of this. One thing that I think lingers for me that is problematic and it hasn't been rectified is there still is this scenario out there that Eric Davis is not lying. Eric Davis is telling the truth, that everything in the memos absolutely relates to a real event that occurred and that he was told. However, does it mean that Eric Davis actually met with Admiral Thomas J. Wilson in 2001? And I know that sounds kind of strange when you hear that, because you go, well, what do you mean? It says it in the memo. But there's some unknowns that we have added assuming information into. For me, when I see it, and like I said, you remember, I come from a background that's in law enforcement. Some of what I did, I worked as a criminal intelligence analyst. So not the same thing as people typically think of in the intelligence world, but it's the same concept, just at the localized national security level. And there's aspects of those memos that cause me to wonder if potentially could this be something where Dr. Davis was set up and unwittingly, and to this day doesn't know. For example, I think when you read the memo, they describe how he meets Admiral Wilson in the back parking lot of EG&G Special Projects, and there's two other Navy personnel that are with the Admiral. Viewing that from kind of the perspective that I come from, the first thing that goes off in my head is that if I'm going to set somebody up, meaning I'm going to set up a meeting in which I'm going to have someone portraying someone they're not, in this case Admiral Wilson, that's exactly how I would set it up, is bring two other people. Because we have this kind of picture in our mind of this event going down where Dr. Davis and Admiral Wilson are sitting in the back seat of the car face to face and discussing this. But the more likely scenarios is there's two other people, as described in the memo, both a driver and someone else, another passenger, in addition to Admiral Wilson, allegedly. If I was going to set somebody up, that's how I'd do it, because I'd have a driver and then I would put somebody behind the driver's seat, and therefore the only open seat would be the rear passenger seat behind the person in the front passenger seat, my quote, Admiral Wilson. And this reduces the amount that the person who hopping in the car, in this case Dr. Davis, can actually see and really examine the face and everything else that goes on with the person who's in the front passenger seat, who's telling all of this. And so a part of me still wonders, did he actually meet with Admiral Wilson, or did he meet with somebody who was pretending to be Admiral Wilson and tell him this? As crazy as that sounds, I think there's another aspect of all of these more recent leaks that people have completely dismissed and overlooked, and that is that these documents weren't the only documents that were leaked at the same time. The other documents that were leaked from Edgar Mitchell's collection were a series of email exchanges between Dr. Hal Puthoff, Dr. Eric Davis, and Dr. Kit Green, all names well known in the UFO community, and they related to Dr. Puthoff and Dr. Davis discussing with Kit Green whether the alien autopsy video was real. Was this the real video that he was shown? And he's telling them, yes, no, this is. Now, I've spoken to Dr. Green, and this is not something that he's made this publicly known as well, that he has said there was a point in time that he was indeed shown the alien autopsy video that we all know now is a hoax or a production, kind of the precursor around the same times as the Blair Witch type, make it look real TV production thing. But he was shown this by officials or somebody and led to believe it was real. He now knows that it's not real. He knows that not only was the video a hoax, but the people who told him it was real were deceiving him. Reasons remain unknown. At least that's what he's told me. So point being is that somebody that seemingly with some authority or power that could convince Kit Green is another person who has considerable credentials and verifiable credentials in terms of what he did with the CIA for decades. And he outside of UFOs, is very much regarded as an expert in various forensic fields with the Central Intelligence Agency. But someone was able to convince him that video was real. That's fairly sophisticated. And so you look at that and realize that even somebody like Kit Green, who has a reputable past and career in the intelligence field, was themselves deceived for reasons that remain unknown. I don't know that we can't totally rule out right now that this same type of event could have happened with Dr. Davis going back to 2001. And so that, for me, I'll be honest with you, that's something I've not really openly discussed, but that is a lingering concern for me. And because in that regards, Dr. Davis is completely 100% telling the truth in terms of what he believes. He met with this person, and equally, Admiral Wilson, the actual retired Navy admiral, is also telling the truth. It's an interesting scenario that I will say, as of right now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But that is a lingering question that I have in my mind. And I think that those Kit Green emails that were released at the same time are, to me, very tangible proof that the possibility of disinformation, sophisticated disinformation targeting credentialed people who are examining the UFO field absolutely is potential, and it's possible, and it has happened. And so I'm skeptically viewing all of this right now. I'll be honest with you, Dave.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying. All right. And there's a lot of good people right now who are doing research. Okay. Last night we had Bob McGuire, and we were eventually joined by Joe Mergia as well, who I know you've had a couple of public battles with on Twitter as we talk about that. But, the big thing that I look at with all of this, okay, is the fact that I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong. I know what I want to believe. And that's all we can really speculate on right now, because I personally think, coming from an experiencer's background, that Wilson has everything to lose and nothing to gain by coming out and saying, yeah, Eric Davis and I met and we talked a little bit of football. We talked a little bit of UFOs and all of this kind of stuff. He has nothing to lose. And to me, even though you say, Wilson is right and Davis is right, and I fully respect that. I don't think you're waffling at all, but I do believe that one side is more right than others, and I do not believe Wilson on this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I'll be the first to say, yeah, everything that I just said there is not. I don't want anybody to think that that is my leading opinion about these events. That is a hypothesis or potential that's out there that I haven't been able to rectify yet. And again, this goes back to what we discussed as well at the top of the hour. That when I try to form a basis of what is my opinion and everything that comes about from proof, which is evidence that demonstrates fact, and in all of these events right now, there is insufficient proof to really form for me a compelling opinion and say with a high degree of certainty one way or another what one of these things is. I will also say that I have not put the amount of time and effort that a lot of people have in these memos and investigating them. And the reason behind that is because I think you have seen this considerably now in the past year since they were leaked, and especially even more in the past month or so, that it is a very contentious topic. It is something that is polarized, and like you mentioned, I have nothing personally against Joe Murgia. We actually were, I would say, we're pretty good friends before all of this recently, but it creates this polarized environment, and now it's us against them type deal, and where the lack of proof forms opinions, and so you dig into this belief. But for me, the reason that I don't find the memos compelling is because at the end of the day, all of it can be true, meaning Wilson is now lying, meaning they met, meaning that he said everything he said. Dr. Davis is telling the truth. Everything in those memos can be true. However, all roads still lead to, if that is the case, did the contractor and what they told Admiral Wilson, that they were working on reverse engineering crashed UFO technology, is that true? And unfortunately, those memos do not, whether that is true or not, extends beyond the bounds of what those memos are capable of. And so for me, I haven't invested a lot of time into it because I think best case scenario, no matter what, we are still going to be left wondering, is what the contractor told Wilson true? And, I have a opinion from the defense national security side of things that would say if everything in there is true, and indeed that's what was told to Admiral Wilson by this defense contractor, in terms of what is precedent and consistent with what goes on in black programs, that actually would suggest that no, whatever that contractor was working on was not related to UFO technology, because at the end of the day, like I said, it doesn't matter what position you hold or what clearance you hold. If you are not approved and have cognizant access to a program, it is not discussed with you. And as you pointed out, with why Admiral Wilson not only would lie, but frankly is legally obligated to lie if it relates to an unacknowledged secure access program, or USAP, or a waived unacknowledged USAP. He's obligated to lie about it. That same is held to that contractor. So if you walk into a unacknowledged special access program that's working on advanced aerospace stealth technology or radar or a nuclear missile, so not UFOs, you walk in there and say, I know that you're working on UFOs and crash UFO technology, that contractor most likely is going to tell you, yep, you're right, buddy. You got it all there and right. We are working on UFOs, but I can't let you in, because that in itself actually conceals and hides what they're actually working on. That's the reason for the secrecy. The secrecy doesn't exist so that they can still tell you anyway, but not show you. So that, I think, is probably why I just haven't, that concerns me, because even if it's all true, I think that we will be back in the same place we are right now, Dave. We're now arguing not about whether what Wilson said is true or what Davis said is true or the memo is true, but whether what was said to Wilson was true. And unfortunately, we don't even know what contractor it is.
We have 4 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Lieutenant Tim McMillan is our guest tonight, writer for Vice and Popular Mechanics. Tim, the way I see the way this game has changed over the last couple of years, we see a lot of spooks, ex-spooks, people who are scientists who have focused on these topics, all of a sudden taking over the entire realm, and longtime researchers, whether it's people like Richard Dolan, Grant Cameron, Steve Bassett, and others of that ilk, kind of, in my opinion, moving into the background where they don't want to be because their entire life's work is, in my opinion, flushing down the drain right in front of them. And that doesn't mean to disrespect their work, because I think they are doing fantastic research in subjects that they love. But is there work of people like that, or just your everyday researcher, is it even important anymore, considering all these verbal battles on social media are all struck around people who have worked within Bigelow Industries, Skinwalker Ranch, the U.S. government, the Pentagon, alphabet agencies?
Sure, yeah, you're right, and I understand that, and I'll be the first to say that I hope not, because to some degree what we're talking about here is with people coming out of the intelligence services, and I have a lot of respect for that. I know that there's quite a bit of negative stigma about things, and to some degree it's warranted because of historical precedent. Things that have gone on in the intelligence community, and this idea of secrecy in general makes people uncomfortable. But the space should not be dominated by the intelligence community, whether it be former members, current members, or whatever. And that includes what's going on right now. And I respect what's going on now inside government, but I have also been quick to point out that, the Pentagon has officially acknowledged that the current UFO program is being run by the Office of Naval Intelligence. They are part of the intelligence community under the cognizant authority of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence's office. That is, the Department of Defense's intelligence, oversight apparatus. It shouldn't be regulated to only the intelligence community, because the intelligence community is going to treat it the way that they treat all intelligence things. It is not going to be public information being made. There's going to be the people who are talking about it now publicly, who come from the intelligence community. The idea of public conversations and public affairs and discussing in public, that's not something intelligence people do. It's the antithesis of their work, and so they're not good at it. They say things that don't make sense, and it's unintentional at times, but because of their past, it makes people think there's more going on than maybe really is. And so I would say it's considerably regretful to only, people who are interested in the topic, to only isolate yourself and not equally make sure that the UFO community is robust, that you have both scientific people who are doing scientific research, coupling with people from the intelligence community or the defense community as well. But the goals, motivations, and intentions are going to be different from all of these factions, and all of these factions, therefore, are necessary in order to actually get accurate, good information out there. So I totally agree with what you're saying. I think I have seen some good new science-minded researchers that have popped up in the field, though, as well, who are kind of coming in here. But you're right. I think that the people who have been researching the topic for a long time, it's unfortunate if they're being overshadowed or kind of shouted down, because
right.
I learn a lot from them. I mean, they've been through this for years.
Lieutenant Tim McMillan, Spaced Out Radio, UFO Talk continues right after this.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there. You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you. I absolutely love it. No place I would rather be than right in the captain's chair right now. I want to say that it's an easy reminder to remind you all that our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. You know, you can also follow us on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show and over on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Hey, let's give a shout out to Brittany and Rob, working their tails off at Scoreboard Bar and Grill, all the way in northern Michigan there. Wherever they are in Michigan. I don't even know where they are in Michigan, but I know they're playing the Spaced Out Radio game tonight on their big screens with everybody there. Hey, cheers, you all. We absolutely love you, and thank you for hanging on out. By the way, it's a plethora of people there tonight, so enjoy your time. Tim McMillan, all the way from Germany, is here tonight. He writes for Vice. He writes for Popular Mechanics, writes everything UFO. This guy is tapped in. You want to talk to Elizondo? You want to talk to Mellon? You want to talk to anybody in this field? They want to talk to Tim. And, Tim, we thank you for taking time for our audience here.
Oh, no. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it, Dave. It's fun.
Tim, I want to ask you about this, and put your writer's cap on here for a second. You know, in the past couple of years, we've seen all that's old is new again. Whether it's the alien autopsy video, as you brought up, whether it's Bob Lazar, whether it's Roswell, because that was said by the president's son and asked that question. Okay, everything old seems to be new again. Why are we going around in this circle, in your opinion?
Well, I think one of the major reasons for that, and I find this for myself, and that's one of the things what people will notice with me, is that I don't write, I don't have a blog really, and I don't publish things in major outlets as frequently as maybe a lot of people. I'm fortunate in that regard because I'm freelance. I'm not having to work an assignment desk or getting stuff assigned to me. But another reason for that is that if you really examine it, the frequency of really, really compelling events that extend beyond just, say, the UFO community, but that would be compelling to the mainstream world, in the world of ufology, doesn't that frequency is not as fast paced as people would like. And so let's take the USS Nimitz events, and these events where these videos were released in 2017. That would be a really compelling new event because in large part it was unknown. At least the extent of it was unknown to the major world. And you have all these great witnesses, all these people. So now it's harder to say it didn't happen than offer up arguments against it. But the frequency of that is it's not nearly as rapid pace as people want, because you hear something that and you're like, wow, this is awesome. I want to learn and know more. And so I think what ends up happening is you'll see people either embellish stories and bring things to light because that demand for new information is there, or you simply see a rebirth or regurgitation of past stories that in some regards appear new to some people. I being one of them, that some of the stories that have been discussed are brought back up, such as the MJ-12 document stuff.
There's another one, yes.
Yeah, that stuff came out in the 80s. I was a little kid then. Now I'm almost 40 years old. But to me, that's new because it came up it was a big deal. But by the time, I got interested in the topic, and for a lot of people my age or younger, this had already died out. And so it's like, wow, it's been re-brought up. And so it seems to go in cycles where it ebbs and flows like that, where you bring up these other things. I will say that whenever I look into the historical aspects of it, the much, much, much more compelling things are not the controversial, the MJ-12, the Roswell, that kind of stuff. I think if you look at some of the work of Dr. Hynek and you look at some of the old files there, some of the old NICAP files, some of the old things that you see going all the way back to the 50s and 60s, I look at that and go, wow. Now there's some really compelling things here that aren't as pop culture and mainstream, and frankly, they represent a more tangible battle space of examining that this is a real phenomenon. And to go back to a point you made just moments ago, I think that is all the more reason why it is incumbent upon not pushing out, but yet listening to and making a welcome space for people who have been researching this topic for decades. Your Barry Greenwoods, your people who aren't on UFO Twitter, they aren't out here on social media talking all the time, but when you see the work that they have done going back to the 70s and 80s, you realize these are people who are real experts in the field, frankly, in these same topics we're talking about today. And there is this kind of rebirth to bring up these other topics and discussions. Bob Lazar is another one that's he's ebbing and flowing, isn't he? He seems to come back up every now and then. And for me, coming into it, looking at it, I'll just say it's regrettable because to me, it appears that the conclusion when this wave is over will be no different than it was when they originally came up in the 80s. We will be no closer to any truth.
I want to put my tinfoil hat on here for a second. All right, and I want to throw this out and get your opinion on it. What if the reason why these are all being rehashed and restored, into the public eye, that maybe it's because they don't want other topics to come up? There's a lot of secrets out there, Tim, and you look at Roswell, you look at Kecksburg, you look at Holloman Air Force Base, you look at a lot of these stories that have been brought to light over the years. We don't know which ones are true. We don't know which ones aren't. Some sound extremely far-fetched with very little investigative journalism or investigative techniques used on them. All right. There is a lot of interesting stories out there. And with everything being old as new again, could this be a distraction from really trying to hide what we really know about, as a light example, what happened at Roswell? Nobody's talking about it.
Sure. No, I don't think that's as tinfoil hat wearable as you said. I understand you're trying to be tempered there and saying it because the idea of this grand conspiracy by state or non-state actors is ridiculed and regulated to being crazy. But whether that aspect of it is true or not is irrelevant. The outcomes are the same, and so I think that is absolutely something that people should consider. There goes another aspect of the Wilson Davis memo that it concerned me, not the context of the actual event as much as the things being attached to it. And we've seen that especially recently, that now MJ-12 documents are being attached to that event. Bob Lazar is being brought out and attached to that event. So you have all of these other things being attached to it that, for the most part, the very serious researchers put a lot of work into it back when these events first came out, came to the conclusion that all evidence said that this was not factual information. This was misinformation, disinformation, hoaxes, however you want to term it. The idea that has somehow changed, I've not seen anything that would change that. And so everything that you're suggesting is accurate in that you have suddenly have senators talking about it. You have bills being presented before Congress talking about it. You have mainstream media talking about it. You have people who maybe professional people who are willing to discuss it openly for the first time ever. But then suddenly, if it gets infected by a whole bunch of other things that's just simply interjected in to bring it all down and crashing down, I mean, that's how you do it. And so,
yes, yeah. And my point, Tim, my point to all of this is, okay, the more we go down these rabbit holes, and Joe Mergia actually brought up a good point last night. He goes, I never thought I would be a woo guy. He goes, but I'm turning into one. Because that's where my information, my sources are leading me. And any good investigator will go down that road. You know, I mean, it's like a good scientist. In these fields, we see a lot of opinion conducted and very little science. But a true scientist will go down that road no matter how weird it may be, because that's where the evidence takes them. And I think we're starting to see this with a lot of researchers. People were calling Grant Cameron going off the deep end a little bit because he got into the consciousness aspect of everything. And that seemed to bother a lot of people from his presidential UFOs. We've seen John Greenwald bring out some weird information over the years through his FOIA requests, whether it's about MJ-12, whether it's about Kennedy, whether it's about anybody. And you have to follow that line of where your information takes you. And at this point, the way everything is coming out, and trust me, this is a long way to ask this question, okay? Can we really throw out anything right now because it's all public opinion, and every time someone says, oh, that can't be true, their next road goes down that same old path?
Yeah, no, well, sure. I mean, this topic is a wilderness of mirrors. I mean, that is just anybody who's been in it knows that. And I think that idea of what Joe said, that to some degree, when you get involved in it too significantly and you go down, quote unquote, woo, I think that's you see that with anybody who's been in that serious research field, simply because you do run into a roadblock in which the objective evidence that's obtainable runs out. And so you have to start kind of making sense of that. And there's just this weird, from my own aspect, that I have tried to be as objective and look at this as just a straightforward topic as much as possible. But yet it's an interesting topic that inherently seems to have a trickster element to it, because the moment you think you can place it into a particular, very defined space that's just tangible, it's understandable, and relatable, it flips the script on you. I think let's examine the Nimitz events, where for me, this is all tangible. Everything's in that space, and nothing's woo or weird other than whatever these objects were is unknown. But then you bring in things like the still unknown, mysterious individuals who showed up on those ships and took all the data. You're like, oh man, who are these people? How do they know so quickly? Who is it? Truth is, they may very well have just been intelligence personnel from one of the arms or branches of government, whether it be O&I or something, doing what they should have been doing. But it also brings in this weird kind of trickster element where there's still this mystery and there's still this ambiguous information there. Unknown, whether it is UFOs, whether it is Bigfoot, it doesn't anything. Unknown is it's a stressful and chaotic place for the human mind. And we inherently want to fill that space with something we can understand and relate to, because the idea of just completely unknown is uncomfortable. And so with this topic, to date, all roads still lead to unknown if you're going to base, what your opinion or beliefs are on your hard fact proof evidentiary value. At least for the people that also haven't had more personal experiences. I know there's quite a number of people who have had personal experiences, not just seeing UFOs, but actually what I'm going to lump in to call experiencers. And they have a much more personal experience with some of these things. And I think that, for me, if I had those same compelling experiences that others have had, my views of all of this would be completely different and understandably different. So it's hard because you have some people who are experiencers that have experienced things that are life-changing, compelling, and others that haven't. And so it makes it just difficult because of that. There's no way for me to have the same type of personal experience. It either happens or doesn't. That means it's subjective. And whenever anything's subjective, it's just rife for all sorts of different battling contentious beliefs and different motivations. Some of them not good at times. That's what I said. As long as there's belief, it allows others to interject it and take advantage of that as well.
Right. Tim, in the end, it's about the public. We're all trying to get information out of the public, whether it's a show like mine, reporting like yours, FOIA requests like John Greenwald, buddying up and getting information from the To the Stars Academy like Danny Silva. We all have our little niche and role that we're trying to be very productive in this. But when it comes down to the public, they don't care. They just want answers because they're frustrated in this 24-hour news cycle of seeing everything get rehashed, everything come back. They're tired of the bickering. How do we change that? How do we, start bringing those answers together if everybody wants to maintain individuality?
Oh man, that's a tough question to answer because I have my opinion, but yet I caveat it and acknowledge that's just my opinion. Any person can be wrong, and I'm wrong all the time in life, and I think everybody's wrong all the time in life. And so, how do we go about that? My opinion is trying to make sure that we present, and this is exactly what I do, the best, most compelling evidence that can be backed up by proof, tangible, whether it be documents, multiple people whose accounts can be verified, this type of thing where you've really constructed a very compelling case. Again, I only can lean on what I know, which is a compelling case that I could bring before a jury because I believe that a jury would convict somebody beyond any reasonable doubt. And so to compile this evidence in which someone would form their opinion based on lack of any other reasonable doubt that there's any other conclusion. To me, that's how I go about it. That's how I go about it in trying to make it something where the topic and field is not as much in the domain of belief as it is in the domain of where anybody can look at it and go, that appears to be self-evident truth, and go on from that. And I think that may upset some people, or they wish that I would look more into the more subjective avenues, like we discussed, like the experiencers, or maybe where they're like, you're reporting on whether or not the Department of Defense is actually investigating UFOs and proving that. We're beyond that. I want you to prove where the Roswell crash is or the alien bodies. And for me, it's kind of that whole you got to crawl before you can walk and walk before you can run type thing. And so I'm trying to catch up to that crawling and walking stage for the general public, because I think that's for anybody who hasn't spend any time investigating or looking at the topic, to jump from being told that there's this stigma that UFOs are hokey and it's just a fringe topic and people who believe it are just, the outskirts of society and magical thinking, to jump from that kind of idea into not only that there's crashed UFOs or that there's alien abductions, to jump from that place is a huge leap. That's a lot to ask of somebody. And so I try to start from that vantage point of where you progress along that to where we eventually reach that idea. Is there crashed UFOs? What is going on with people who have said they've experienced abduction experiences or personal experiences? I kind of follow that same path of how to some regards, you're watching me and my evolution in personal growth with this topic.
Yes, I will say that. I've never really heard you want to talk about especially the experiencer side, because you've always tried to maintain that foray that you got to separate the two, but now you're starting to bring them together. I find that intriguing.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying is very genuine. I try to be as transparent and honest with people about this as possible, to the point where I overly emphasize things where I'm like, this is just my opinion, or this is why I think this, because I think that's the other thing that's important is that people have that evidence that shows how you come about your opinion or belief. And yeah, no, what I said is true, that you're watching the evolution of somebody, myself in a way, that goes from seeing something interesting they can't explain in the sky years ago, examining that topic quietly, researching it quietly for a number of years, stepping into the public arena and following this progression to where you're like, okay, now the idea that there is something, devices or objects of unknown origin that are flying around in here, there's compelling evidence to show that is true. So then you're progressing up that kind of thing. And you're right. The idea of experiencers is something I have never just outright dismissed. I think that's not fair to ever dismiss that, because there's no good reason to suggest that it's not real. I have not seen the evidence, the counter evidence saying you shouldn't dismiss it. And so the idea that if you have objects of unknown origin, those are real. These are flying around. Can you rule out all of this other? I don't think you can.
But that's the point. Not everybody can be wrong. David Adair testing missiles, that land in Area 51 can't. And I'm using examples. Clifford Stone, another one. Even experiencers like Betty Barney Hill, Travis Walton. All of these people, Paul Hellyer, can't be wrong. There has to be an element of truth in this, as we got about 90 seconds to go.
Absolutely. And bottom line is it's either a unknown, undiscovered mental illness that affects anybody and is not regulated to any other mental illness and has no physiological characteristics, or there's something real going on here. I believe that if you believe that first explanation, then prove it. It has never been proven. And therefore, the latter explanation, that there's something real here, absolutely is on the table. You can't. If you believe that it is not real, then prove why you would have, just like you said, a vast number of individuals, totally diverse backgrounds that have given the same type of accounts. And so, prove it. Prove.
Well, that's what we have to do. But okay, then it comes down to that age-old question: what is proof? What is proof? If you can't take testimony, and people are now refusing to take testimony as any type of evidentiary proof, how do we go about it?
Sure. And when I just said prove it, I want to make sure that I caveat. I'm not talking about the people who said they've experienced prove it. Okay. The burden of proof should. Yeah, the burden of proof should fall on the people dismissing it, and there's no explanation of dismissing it, proof. But you're right. How do you prove? A, that it is going on, and that B, these experiences, how do you go about that, determining what the heck is really going on here? Oh, that's tough, because the elements that are involved in abduction scenarios or personal experience or scenarios, they fall in realms that aren't real to us.
Right. Exactly. Tim Holt, that's a perfect way to end it, where we go to the top of the hour break. Tim McMillan will be with us another 30 minutes on Spaced Out Radio. We continue the UFO talk, the experiencer talk, everything UFO tonight. Then we got the news wire coming up at the bottom of the hour. Yes. No news, just Dave talking. Hour 3 next. Tim, I'm just going to run my dogs out one more time. I'll be right back, okay?
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there. The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. It was kind of cool. Took my dog outside so he could do his thing, stare up at the sky right over SOR headquarters. The space station flies over. Love it when that happens. Beautiful synchronicity. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio digitally. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oh, where is it here? Basilicide. Basilicide is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show for your daily updates and on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Final time tonight, we introduce Lieutenant Tim McMillan. Writes for Vice, writes for Popular Mechanics. His main topic du jour, let's get into some UFOs. Let's get into some aliens. And right before the break, Tim, we were talking about all of these old stories that are coming back forward and whether or not they need to be investigated, reinvestigated, whether there is something new. I mean, we look over the last couple of years. I mean, even recently, like very recently, we had Joe Rogan talking to George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell again about Bob Lazar. I mean, this is a story that just won't die. I mean, is there more to it? How do we get more information when the same information keeps coming back?
Good question. Because you're right. You see these rehashing of stories, and I think it... To some degree, one of the things that I'm a big advocate of is trying to tell people not to become limited to simplistic thinking when it comes to any of this stuff. And so when I say engaging complex thinking, that maybe even involves ideas that people associate with woo. All right. But, there's a host of things that at one point in time throughout history were considered or regulated to woo, because they just weren't understood. The sun rose and fell because, some deity or something brought it up in the sky. Now we define that in much more scientific terms. And so the idea of woo or paranormal in a lot of ways is not, or very much isn't crazy. It just means anomalous or not understood. It's not been defined in ways that we're comfortable with. And so how do you get past regurgitating the same things is understanding that some of these same things don't seem to be giving us any more clear understanding. We know no more about UFOs in a very broad sense and a ground truth sense today than we did in 1989 when Bob Lazar told his tale on TV. And so you have to ask, well, is there anything new that is going to be shared that is going to change that? And for my part, I haven't seen that yet. I know there's this, you hear that maybe Lazar has a stolen piece of element 115 stored away. And, these kind of new elements come into it. And you have to say, well, if that is true, then he is holding conclusive proof that A, his story is true, and B, that yes, the alien life is visiting Earth and there's this other exotic element out there. Why isn't he sharing it with the world? Why is that not coming out? And so, because that's the things that would move the ball forward. And right now, one of the things I've told people that I think kind of can oftentimes reduce things into more simplistic thinking is even the term UFOs. I know UAP is now, but from its onset, the idea of unidentified flying objects kind of sets an implicit standard that creates, maybe narrows our focus into what's really going on here. Because if you listen to sighting reports, if you listen to the same things that, whether it's radar tracks, videos, what military, civilian witnesses and everything say, the objects that are often described behave in manners that are inconsistent with how we define flight. They're not flying. And that sounds crazy because by dictionary definition, they're flying because they're in the air and they're moving around. But in terms of how we define flight in physics with lift, propulsion, thrust, these objects aren't doing that. They seem to be impervious to the effects that we don't know how to compensate for to engage in the same types of flight. And therefore, by scientific definition, they're not flying. So what are they doing? I think expanding that to figure out how they're doing and able to perform the ways that they are without limiting it into the manners of how we achieve flight can be significant. Because right now, I would say with most of this topic, and this is not just with UFOs, it can be with just about a host of paranormal topics, whether it's Bigfoot, ghost, you name it, is that where these topics remain, the domain that they exist in is A, they are real because you have a wealth of anecdotal, or in some cases physical, whether it's videos, photos, whatever, proof that they are real. They are subsequently, simultaneously not real because they're not accepted and defined under the standards in which we define ground truth and scientific truth, which itself is fallible because it always changes. But still, they're not defined in those terms. So we're talking about things that are simultaneously real and not real. So that space in between where something is in reality but not in reality is where they exist. Now, how you define that space, what do you call that space? I don't know. But that's where they are, and I think as long as it remains there, then you're going to be able to have compelling and conflicting sides, both saying it's real and not real, and feuding, and it's not going to come out of that middle ground space.
Okay, so if it's not coming out, all right, we have to dig it out. That's the only way it actually works in this field.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
We are focused. Okay, so we are so focused on the science, the ability, the technology. And Tim, I'm just gonna be blunt. I don't care. I don't care about the technology. I don't care about whether this magical sphere can be traveling at 26,000 miles per hour and then turn on a 90 degree. I mean, is it cool to me? Absolutely. All right. Tinfoil back on. If I put my experiencer's hat on, which is obviously full of tinfoil, all right, and I take the investigative side out of it, I am looking at this as saying, as an experiencer, the technology means nothing to me. Okay? Why I've been taken, why that craft landed in front of me, why I've seen extraterrestrials with my own eyes. That's what I want to know. That's what I want to understand. I want to know why them damn aliens haven't landed in my backyard and took me for a flight while I'm awake, like I am right now. Like, come during the show and say, knock on the window, Carl, and say, hey, Dave, it's time to go. I mean, that would be one hell of a ratings boost. I could tell you that, and I would be happy with that. But that's what I care about. That's what a lot of people I hear from, whether they're in our chat rooms or they message me privately or they put on their links. That's what people are caring about. Sure, the technology is fun. We need to learn that because that's human curiosity. But at some point, we have to start bringing the experience into this. I know many out there do not agree with that, but to me, that's what interests me, because there are too many people out there who have this same two-word question out there, which is, why me?
Yeah. Well, sure. And I think that obviously we see that the let's say, quote unquote, nuts and bolts aspect of it is already difficult enough to talk about if you're talking about official channels, so government channels and everything. But the less nuts and bolts and the aspects that you're saying that oftentimes in the experience accounts that I'm familiar with, both having talked to people who given their personal accounts or just reading different literature and everything, these aspects go even further beyond how we define reality into where you have people who very adamantly describe, being able to go through incorporeal events where they can go through walls. They're lifted through walls and windows that are closed, and they're not interacting with matter the same way we know. This is even more difficult to wrap your head around. But at the same time, I will say that very quietly, very secretly, and even more, it's less out there than the nuts and bolts side. But these same serious government people are they don't dismiss it. They're also interested in it. And, that aspect of why me or why is this happening is a question that I think I would have if I had those experiences. And I think it's a very valid question. I have the question, why you, David, not me? What's wrong with me?
You were the good guy. You were the good guy cop, though, and you went viral. That's why not you.
Okay, well, maybe that's it. I don't know. At the same time, some people don't describe, there's different variations. They describe these experiences positive. Some of them describe them as negative. So I don't know. I say, why not me? But then if I wouldn't want to have some of the negative experiences people have. That's really tough for anybody, because if we're talking about, no matter what, quote, it is, whether it is alien, whether it is interdimensional or something altogether more weird, we have the idea that we could understand and relate to the psychology of something that is inherently alien. And so now I'm not defining it as an alien that it came from a different planet, but it's just alien and is inhuman. That's hard because how can we? We can only relate to what we can relate to. And frankly, that was a lot of was my primary interest, and still a significant interest of mine before I started getting into the journalism aspect of the whole UFO subject. Is my academic background's in cognitive psychology. And so I spend a lot of time researching and thinking about how do we perceive and interpret and deal with things, aspects in our environment or events that aren't, quote, real to us by defined reality, events that we lack any experience to associate with, events that we lack even the semantic language to define. I mean, that in itself is very significant. I mean, people don't realize it. I've said this multiple times before, and people are like, what? And then they Google it, and they go, oh, my God, it's true. But there's a host of empirical evidence that shows that human beings couldn't perceive the color blue up until about 2,000 years ago. And so there's a huge chunk of human history where we did not see blue. Sounds crazy. The sky's blue, the ocean's blue. But yeah, 2,000 years ago, people didn't see the color blue. There's zero references to the color blue in historical documents and literature beyond about 2,000 years. And so, the leading theory there is the fact that blue was never described is that people didn't perceive it. And I won't go down this whole rabbit hole of explaining some of the science that's gone in more modern times to prove that, involving disconnected, lost tribes type thing, people who are disconnected from any modern civilization who have demonstrated that they equally have a problem perceiving the color blue. But that in and of itself is good evidence that shows that the reason people couldn't perceive the color blue is because they lacked the language to define it. So if we lack a language, if we lack the way to describe it, everything we have language-wise, everything we're talking about, everybody listening here, everything we said, we can relate to something because it's relatable. We understand it. We have experience to go with it. When we're describing a UFO sighting, and I say a disc, you can picture that in your mind. Those words have meaning. But how do we interpret and perceive things that we lack? Meaning they're just way beyond our current understanding and knowledge. And the way we do it is the best way we know how. We can only relate it to things that we understand. And so that aspect of it has always been interesting because in that regard, for experiencers, what you see and what you experience and how you perceive it, is that accurate? Not that the experience didn't happen, not that something that can even be that possesses a sentience and intelligence isn't real. Like that can all be real, but is what you're seeing, how you perceive it, real? Does it look the way you think it looks, or is that just your mind's doing the best it can to perceive something that it just doesn't have any other evidence to add to it? And so I think outside all of this kind of idea of why me and what's going on, it's a very existential question. And it's not a question that is new. It's a question that exists far back into antiquity. And frankly, there's evidence for that for as long as human history. There's different iterations of it. So it can have religious components, and it's angels and demons and all of these different things. But the idea that there is more to reality than what we see in front of us, how we define it every day, how we drive to the grocery store, how we do everything that we do, the idea that there's more to existence than just that is inherent to human beings. And so that same kind of why do I have this experience? Why is this going on? Why is this happening? That is a lingering question that if we get past even this, let's say the 70-plus year popularity with the UFO topic, in which it has become a very alien-centric topic. Not to say that it's not. And you've got me now rambling woo because I just say.
But that isn't the whole point. I mean, the fact is there's a plethora of people out there who continue to experience something pretty phenomenal. You would agree with that. Yeah. I would agree with that. There's also the proof that in this last 2-year argument over what is happening in ufology, that the stories that people are of the experiences people are having have been shoved into the darkness. They're not as relevant anymore. And maybe that's cyclical. Maybe it's not, because we don't have, in today's technology, we don't have a Betty and Barney Hill. We don't have a Travis Walton. We don't have a weird experience with just towns and villages of people going missing anymore. We just don't see that. Sure, we have people like Calvin Parker and Chris Bledsoe in the popularity field, but they are far and few between now. And it just baffles my mind that so many people out there are trying to push the experiencer to the wayside and say, almost like, get out of my way. This is about science. This is about technology. This is about mankind's future on this. And by the way, we hate the president. We love the Space Force, even though it's weird. and where are we going with all of this? And in the meantime, the experiencers are waving their hands, Tim, saying, what about us? What about us?
Sure. Mm-hmm. No, I totally get that. And that's why you've probably heard me talk about experiencers more than I ever have today on your show, because I don't think that should be regulated. I don't think it should be dismissed whatsoever. I would say to anybody who has had those experiences and everything, the hardest part there is relatability. And so, people like myself who haven't had those same experiences, it's very difficult to relate to it and understand it. And it's hard to, it's hard to put it in a framework that someone who hasn't had that experience can understand it, because we don't have, just like you said, we don't have these compelling stories that are true head scratchers like the Betty and Barney Hill or Travis Walton as of recent. And you don't have videos, you don't have somebody that's wearing their GoPro when they get abducted or they have this experience. And so you bring this back and go, here you go, where it's undeniable, where you can have videos and stuff of UFO sightings. And so I think that's why it gets regulated, because as of right now, the predominant majority of people haven't had those experiences. Does that actually mean that the predominant majority of people haven't had those experiences? I don't know. I think that that probably a lot more people than we realize have had those experiences. But because of the personal nature of them, or the fact that, to some degree, I would imagine if I had the same experience, this idea, even in my own mind, struggling with, is this real? Did this really happen? Probably goes on. And so that in and of itself reduces the likelihood that you want to come out and talk about it. And you want to bring it out in the open and really demonstrate how many more people actually maybe are going into this than people even realize. But for me, I will say Dr. John Mack's work was really interesting, and I still find it because he's very credible, and I would say I can understand and appreciate from his point of view that he came into examining the experience or abduction experience from the stance of a clinical professional, in that, hey, it's got to be a undiagnosed mental illness and I'm going to solve it, to realizing, no, there's something here. It is not a mental illness. And for me, that's very, very, I would encourage anybody that's, dismissive of the idea and people's personal accounts to read either of Dr. John Mack's books or look at some of his work, because he provides a really interesting and compelling argument for someone like myself who hasn't had the same experiences, that he approached it in a scientific way and walked away with that. I definitely don't. I don't think that should be dismissed, because, as you kind of pointed out, potentially the experiencer is the one who holds the key to maybe more understanding about all of it.
I agree with you, my friend. We only got about 30 seconds left, Tim. How can people get a hold of you, find your articles?
You can find me on Twitter at LT Tim McMillan, or I have a website, www.lttimmcmillan.com. And so either one of those places, my email's on my Twitter feed or my website. Anybody's always welcome to reach out to me. I try to answer everybody, so I try to be available as much as possible. But yeah, either one of those sites, feel free to check out and reach out. Either tell me I'm a POS or share a story or whatever you want to do.
I appreciate that, Tim. It's always a pleasure. I really enjoy our private phone calls and talking. We haven't done one of those in a long time. It's about time that we do one of those. Tim McMillan, everybody, on Spaced Out Radio. Coming up next, I'm going to get a little personal here to the top of the hour, if you don't mind. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio coming up.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month, and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters, welcoming all of you listening in tonight. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rocket Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and much more. Speaking of the news, oh yeah, it's that time. Now, normally we go through the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the wacky, and the strange. All of our news is put together by Captain Shirk, who reads and writes and runs the entire SOR Newswire. But I started a new tradition last year, okay, on July 17th. And this is something that, I don't normally take a lot of time for myself to kind of break everything down and what happens. When you do a show like this, it's almost very inhumane. You try and have feelings. You try and, be a voice of reason. And trust me, this is something that is very difficult to do, because in the end, you're an entertainer. Okay, you're a face on YouTube, or you are a voice on radio or podcasting, and that's what people listen to. They want to hear the weird stories. They want to play games. They want to listen to, a lot of interesting encounters, whether it's Bigfoot or ghosts or anything that goes along those lines. But on July 17th, and this is going to continue as long as we do this show, there will be a little bit of dedication. And I'm going to take some me time here, because I don't normally. Now, when we broadcast, all right, this is a stressful show. It really is. I put my heart and soul into this show, and a lot of people do. I think of Spookles, the cat, who does our social media, Catherine, who did our social media previously, Amber, who does the Cryptid Tales, Gail, who does all of our news, Corey, who does all the bookings where I don't even have to worry about it anymore. All right, my private investor in SOR Media Ventures. Okay, Ron Bumblefoot Thal for providing the music. Bob Davis, who gives us a great voice to intro me coming out of the breaks. There's a lot of people over the years that have helped out to get us where we are, and the opportunities that we have had from our radio stations and people who are helping expand our audience and our YouTube channel and everything. And normally I don't like to talk about me, because that's not what the show is about. It's not about my experiences. It's not about anything to do with me. I'm just a guy who sits in a chair, knows how to speak on a microphone because I paid $25,000 to get my broadcast journalism degree from the British Columbia Institute of Technology a number of years ago. And I learned how to speak on a microphone after I got my nose fixed. Okay, yes, I had to have rhinoplasty in 1997 because I couldn't breathe out of my nose. Yes, too many hockey fights. And I don't regret them at all. No, it was worth it. Worth the pain. Worth the pain. But 2 years ago, my family lost a very, very special person. I was 15 years old back in 1989, 6 weeks from my birthday, when my sister, who's 10 years older than me, her and her husband at the time, all right, had a baby boy. His name was Bryce. And him and I were very, very close. Very close. And the unfortunate part about it is, okay, as life happened, he didn't end up with the easiest of life, or of lives, I should say. All right. My sister went down a very, very dark path after splitting up with her husband, who moved out of town. My nephew, for a lot of his childhood, was raised by my parents. I tried to help out. I was in my early 20s, and I tried to do my best. Obviously, it wasn't enough, and he fell into the wrong crowd. Started becoming a tough guy in high school. And sometimes the wrong people, they look for that. He dropped out of school, never graduated. Okay? He started hanging out with more and more of these very suspect type people. He was very aware not to bring it around his favorite person in the world of his, which was his grandfather, my dad. And then we found out about a couple of years ago about these nasty little devils called fentanyl and heroin. Now, if you looked at my nephew, you would never, ever suspect he had a drug problem. You'd never suspect it. He was very, very much into working out and looking good. Because near the end, that's all he had. And he was it was weird because for as much of a thug as he had become, he was very, very loving and doting on his cousins, on his mom, on his grandparents. Him and I had a falling out in 2010, and I didn't see or speak to him for 7 years. All because I was trying to help him. And he went the other way. And I told him that was his one shot. I had to try and show him that tough love because I was the uncle that he respected and loved. But I had a family too. And I didn't need any of those problems coming into my house. So, anyways, 2 years ago, 2 years and 6 weeks ago, my dad called me up in tears, saying that my nephew was living on the streets in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, in a tent city, and he was jacked out on heroin and fentanyl. And I said to my dad, I said, go get him. Because my dad didn't know what to do. He was freaking out. He's like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, Dad, you got to go get him. Like, you have no choice. I said, go get him. And he's like, well, where do I bring him? I said, you bring him to your house, Dad. I know you live in an over 60-year-old or 55-year-old complex, but you bring him to your house. just like you would any of us. My dad called me back 3 hours later. He picked him up. And that was the road to rehab again. On July 17th, 2018, we all thought my nephew was in rehab. And we had a family birthday party back in May at my sister's home in the Okanagan in British Columbia. He couldn't make it because of rehab, which we were all very proud of him for. He knew what was right. He knew what he had to do. And he did it. He manned up. He got clean at my parents' house for 30 days and then walked into rehab to try and kick this horrible, horrible habit, this devil of a drug called fentanyl. I knew nothing of fentanyl. Nothing. To these days, I know more about fentanyl than I ever thought I would know in my life. And he went into rehab. On July 18th, I was getting ready to do this show, Ghosts of the Great White North, and my buddy Mike, who you know is Merle, he was here, and he walks into the studio about an hour and a half before the show, and he sees me bawling my eyes out. And I said, I can't do the show. And he goes, why? I said, my nephew just died, dude. 29 years old. My sister called me up, and I'm usually pretty sarcastic when my sister calls me because I have two sisters. And I'm kind of sarcastic. What do you want? And she's like, can you just smarten up for a second? And I went, yeah. And she goes, Bryce has died. I'm like, wow, just hit me. I was stunned. Anyways, long story short, okay? Well, we're going to go long here. He died of a fentanyl overdose near Vancouver, near a few blocks from his treatment facility in a place called John Henry Park. He was found on July 17th. We found out as a family on the 18th. He was found sleeping on a picnic table underneath a beautiful, beautiful oak tree. And somebody went up and said, I don't think that guy is moving. And went and tapped him on the shoulder, and he was cold. The paramedics arrived. They couldn't revive him. He was already gone. We don't know how long he was gone for. But the reason why I talk about this, okay, the reason why I talk about this is this. You can be a drug addict. You can go get one of them little square baggies. And this is what I learned from a police officer. He goes, you could split that little baggie in half. One person survives, the other one doesn't. Because you don't know what it's laced with. It reacts to the body differently. And it's just a killer of a drug. I've never done it. I've only seen hard drugs outside of marijuana. I've only seen hard drugs maybe 3-4 times in my entire life. And I think 3 of those times or 2 of those times was at concerts. Yeah, those are fun stories. I've never used it, never will. It scares me. And so anyways, my nephew died 2 years ago, alone in a park, had nothing more to his name than 2 suitcases and 2 garbage bags of his clothes. So, I don't mean to end this on a down note, but I love my nephew, as there are thousands of people around Canada, the United States, Europe, Australia, wherever we are broadcasting or wherever people are listening, and not just in our areas, but around the world, I should say, who are going through the exact same pain and suffering and loss that my family is, and we're 2 years in. We are 2 years in. And it doesn't get easier. You get mad. I'm in the mad stage. So for the first year, I was in the very sympathetic stage. This year, I'm in the mad stage. I don't know what next year will come through. But there are hundreds of thousands of people out there suffering the way we are. And I also brought up a very interesting point as well, which is my nephew didn't look like a junkie. When we think of somebody who is on heroin, when we think of somebody who is on fentanyl or any type of hardcore narcotic, you know, we see all the mug shots on social media where we see the change in their faces, you know, going, you know, getting all the pock marks and acne and everything, and their face starting to implode on itself, and the nose disappearing from doing too much snorting of drugs and whatever that garbage is. Okay? And we see that. If you would have seen my nephew, you would have never known. Much like a lot of innocent victims who had no clue. They just wanted that hit. Their body was craving the devil inside of it. The devil sitting on the shoulder basically saying, come on, just one time. Just one more time. Let's just do this. Come on. It'll be all right, just like all the other times. But this time is different because you stop breathing. So I want you all to remember this, and this is the whole point. We had some really, I mean, on a selfish note here, we had some really, really cool paranormal experiences with him. It was bloody amazing. Amazing. And I will share them. And, you know, I might do it on the show one day. I'll probably do it on our YouTube channel. All right. But I want you guys to remember this. And this is the biggest message that I could give each and every one of you. People have value. When I worked in downtown Vancouver at the radio station, and we'd walk down and I'd see some bum, you know, begging me for change or begging me for whatever, okay, I used to be rude to them. You know, get out of here. Shoo. You know, go get clean and get a job. You know, do you take debit or credit? I was a jerk to those people. But I learned a lesson going through this with my nephew. Okay? They're people. They're lost souls. They are people who have families, for the most part. They have friends, for the most part. They're allowed to live, too. They just have this horrible demon inside of them that continues to kill them. Sometimes slowly, sometimes fast. And I want all of you to know and remember that the next time you see somebody cracked out on heroin, fentanyl, or, you know, I've seen the videos on social media of people, you know, making fun of drug addicts who are cracking out, as we call it. Okay? That's someone's sister. That's someone's brother. That's someone's child, grandchild, niece, nephew. A person could be an uncle, could be an aunt. All right? They're a human being. They don't deserve to be made fun of. Sure, some of them are going to be stubborn. Some people are stubborn. They don't want the help. Okay? Or they're so far gone that there's no coming back. There's only one conclusion to it. But we have to remember that they are people. They need help. All right? And there's a lot more out of it than we could even suspect. It could be in your family, it could be in mine still. They may have won the war with my nephew, these drugs and these idiots who make it and provide it. All right? But they didn't. They won the battle, but they didn't win the war. And treat people humanely. And if you're an addict, if you are an alcoholic, if you are suffering from depression and anxiety, if you are suicidal, get help and keep fighting. My nephew kept fighting, and that is part of the strength that I have with him, is that he kept fighting right to the end. Sure, the drugs won, but he fought until the end. And I'm proud of him for that. Very proud of him for that. Right? But we learned, at least I learned, and the lesson that I needed to learn from this is that people are people. All right? Heroin and fentanyl don't care about color. It doesn't care about religion. It doesn't care about your family. It doesn't care about your sexual orientation. It doesn't care. But you know what? We as humans, we can care. And if you're somebody who is suffering and battling and fighting, know that this show, Spaced Out Radio, and its host, Dave Scott, which is me, we care. And we want to help you fight that battle. It may be more emotional, it may be more spiritual, it may be anything. Okay? But we can help. And all of us around here can help. The people listening to this show, our radio stations, can help. All right? We can find you phone numbers to help you get into rehab. We can find you a counselor to have you talk to them because you just need someone to talk to because you're feeling down. There is always help. And please remember, as we start to close this out, each and every person out there has value. Their value may not be high to you, but to someone on this planet, their value is extremely high. Just like you have value listening to this show, I think I have value as a father, as an uncle, as a son. My kids have value to me. Our audience, like you, have value to me. And we have to remember that even those who are struggling have value as well. Thank you for letting me take that half hour to tell you a little story. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god of self. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. A huge thank you to everybody listening in our chat rooms tonight on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club on our website, and all the snarkers and snarkettes on Twitter at hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by SOR Media Ventures Limited and Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. And hey, Stu, if you're watching Uncle from the Stars, I love you, kiddo. I miss you every day. Continue to own the night with us, will you? I love you. Good night.